In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process of permissioning specific elements within an itslearning course. So here I'm starting in my planner, and I am going to be having my students work on a Native American project where they're actually going to be creating elements within itslearning in order to demonstrate their knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to Add Resource, and for this part I'm going to create a folder. And I'm going to give my folder a title. And I could give a description of the assignment, or specifically what I want the students to be able to add to the folder here, but that's just a description for the folder. I'm going to select Save, and now that folder is sitting in my planner, and when I select that folder, now I have the ability to give specific permissions to the folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select my permissions. And I have the ability to select who can actually see the folder, so who the folder is visible to. But then I can also select who has the ability to add new elements to that folder. So if I want my students to create something within itslearning, like a page or a PowerPoint, I can have them have the ability to edit and add that to that folder. So I'm going to select that. Now I'm not using an actual course where real students are enrolled, so what I'm just going to use are my fake students in my course, and I'm going to give them the permissions to edit that folder. I'm going to select Save. So now these specific participants have the ability to actually add content to my folder, but I want to narrow down what they can add, because if I leave it just as add, they have the ability to add any of these things to that folder. So really what I want to do is I want to select the specific elements that I want to allow them to add. So I'm going to uncheck this, and maybe I want my students to have the ability or choice to develop a note, or to add a picture, to design a page, a PowerPoint, or even a Word document. But now I'm going to narrow down the selection of options that they have, and I'm going to select Save. So now when I go to add, the only options that my students would see, or my participants would see, are these specific resources that I've selected. So if we look at that in an actual course, what that would look like, this is a teacher's course where she actually did this with her students. So I'm going to switch over to that. So her project was called Hero Project, and within that project she created folders for various heroes that the students were going to be researching. So if I just jump into Christopher Reeve, what I'll see is the teacher created a page of resource tools, but then she changed the permissions on her folder to allow specific students the ability to add resources or content that they create to this folder. So if I go to add, I can see that she's narrowed down the types of resources or activities that the students could add to the folder. So I'm going to come back into the Christopher Reeve folder, and then you can actually see what this student developed. So some text and some images that the student gathered through her research of Christopher Reeve, and we can look at some other ones as well. So this is what that student, and this particular student actually embedded some audio and some pictures here, and I'll show one more. And this is all student created based on the permissions that were granted to the students. So I'm going to come back over to my sample course here. I'm going to go back into my planner and show my plans. And this time I'm going to show you another way that the same thing can be achieved, but maybe you want to streamline the process a little bit more. So I might decide I'm going to have my students do their Native American project, but I'm actually going to start the pages. I want them to develop a page. So I'm going to start the pages for them. So I'm going to add a resource, and I'm going to add a page, and maybe this page I want to be Shawnee's And then I'm going to add another page for a different group, and this time I'm going to do the Susquehannocks. Okay, and so now I have 2 pages for my groups, but I want to come in and give specific permissions to these pages for my groups to have the ability to edit. So I'm going to come into my ellipsis here. I'm going to go to permissions, who can edit this element. So maybe I want Martha and Hayden to be responsible for doing the Shawnees page. And then I'm going to go back to my plans. And I'm going to go into my Susquehannocks page. Change my permissions. And this time I want Aiden and Laura. Save. And so now when those particular students access that page, only Martha and Hayden will be able to edit this, but Laura and Aiden will be able to view it, and vice versa. So I'll show you an example of that in practice. Here, what the teacher did was created the pages for the various explorers. And she started the pages, and then the students would go into the page and add their content. So this is all student-generated content. They found maps, they found images. And what's I think is unique about this page is that the students actually identified with a key which student was responsible by using the colors at the top of the content blocks to signify who was responsible for each one of the various content blocks. So I'll show another example. And so again, all of this is student-created content.